we got off one call about a half hour ago.
Okay, so let's I've got 7:02, so let's go ahead and get started tonight. And for those of you who are just joining us, I've got Adam Coffey here, three-time international best-selling author, former CEO of three private equity firms, 3.1 billion, I think somewhere around there, between 2.5 to 3.1 billion dollars of exits. And so I somehow, maybe through JT, have convinced Adam to come to Nashville to the Greatness Factory. And I was even telling people, I'm like, I don't really know how I convinced him to do this, but I did. And since I got the Greatness Factory and he's got incredible teaching and message, he's going to be coming to the Greatness Factory May 10th and 11th. And whether you've ever been interested in private equity, whether you've ever been interested in building a business to scale, which most of you are, where you've ever been interested in exiting a company, or if you just want to really learn how to build a business. Of all the people that I've studied and looked at, I really believe Adam is one of the most qualified people in the world based on his unique past, his unique experiences, to really come and teach us. I'm going to be sitting in the audience, just like many of you are, learning. And so, Adam, let's get started tonight, and then I want to leave some room for some questions because I do see a nice mix of some new people who weren't with us the other night. Let's start with Empire Builder tonight, and when you wrote Empire Builder, The Road to a Billion, right? Most people can't get their mind around getting to a billion, but they can get their mind around getting to their first million, and then their first 10 million, and first. Maybe they've been leveraging that to 100 billion. So if you were outlining the steps on the empire building, what would you tell people they needed to start with as it relates to building the business?
So, boy, I can go a lot of different directions with that softball. So let me think about how I want to start here. So first of all, good to see everybody's smiling faces out there. Let me just start with why Empire Builder? Why did I write the book? I was doing research on statistics. I've been running businesses for a long time, and some statistics caught my eye that really, really wanted me to write this book. So it started with the fact that there's 33 million small businesses in the United States, just the US. Go globally, there's hundreds of millions of small companies. Small companies is the backbone of the world's economy. Here in the US, those 33 million small businesses represent 49.9% of all businesses. It's like 49.9% of all people in the country. It's just under 50% work in what's defined as a small business. And small businesses represent over 99% of all companies, in the country. So the government defines small business as 500 employees or less. So that's a pretty big company, still defined as a small business. So there's 34 million of them in the US. And there's only 7% of them that ever get to $1 million in revenue. And I started thinking about that. I'm like 93% of the companies in the country, don't ever get to, call it, 93% don't ever get to $1 million. And then the population of those at $1 million that get to 10 million, only 0.4% of the ones that got to $1 million get to 10 million. And I'm like, man. And there's only 3,000 companies in the entire world that have $1 billion in revenue. And you're talking to a guy who's built multiple of those. And so I'm like, why the hell is it so damn hard to get out of the gates and get it right? And so I started really focusing on trying to get out of the gates, because I think that's where most businesses go south. And so before we even think about, you may already own a business, you're in it. But I started out Empire Builder with just kind of some basic thoughts around, how do I stack the odds as an entrepreneur in my favor? So what are the things I would be looking for? How would I know what kind of company to start? And so I started preaching the gospel according to needs versus wants, first of all. So think about that for a second. I'm sitting in my office. I'm at home. If it's supposed to have thunderstorms out here any minute, when it starts, if it's raining on my head and I'm indoors, I need my roof fixed. Right? Can we agree on that? It's like, it can't rain in my house. I need that fixed. Even if I'm unemployed, even if there is a downturn in the economy, if it's my roof is leaking, it's raining on my head, I'm going to have to fix that thing. I'm going to have to figure it out. I'm going to have to go pawn something if I have to get my roof fixed. Likewise, I got this 702 horsepower, beautiful Dodge TRX, sitting out in my driveway. It's like, I like that big ass truck. It's got a big blower on it, and maybe I want bigger tires. But if I'm laid off, I can't afford those tires, so I don't buy them. It's not a need. It's a want. I want that. I'm going to a concert. I'm going to see Tim McGraw on Friday night. Mama says, hey, I want a new pair of boots. I want a new dress. I want a new outfit. That's a want. Economy goes south. I don't have the money. I don't buy it. So businesses that are focused on needs are more resilient in a down economy than companies that focus on wants. So I teach you that bit. Then we go to the next step, which is recurrent revenue versus project-based revenue. So I talked about a roof, right? Well, the only downside to a roofing company would be that it's project-based. So you need a roof. There's a certain percentage of homes in our towns that need a roof every year, but we only need one every 15 years or so. So once I service that customer's need, I got to go find a new customer to replace the revenue that I just got done serving. And so, I want to see companies have contracted revenue versus project-based revenue. So needs, not wants, contracted versus project. Then the next step is low capital expenditures, high free cash flow. So think about some of these businesses for a second. Let's talk about bookkeeping, payroll, accounting type companies. It's need. I own a business. My books got to be done. I want to pay my taxes. I have to pay my taxes. I've got to report my financials, blah, blah, blah. I have to have it accuracy. I sign a contract. They hit me up every month for some fee, and they're going through my books and they're helping me. It's a need and it's contracted. I have a big house, a big yard out there. I have a pest control contract. Every month, the pest control company hits my credit card. It's a need. You live in Texas, you got bugs out here you can put a saddle on, and mama doesn't want them in the house. So I got a pest control contract. Matter of fact, I got two of them. She doesn't like bugs in the house so much. I can't get one company to spray me twice a quarter, so I get two companies to spray me once, and I don't tell each other that the other one exists. So they're hitting my credit card for that. And then they're like, Adam, it's mosquito season. We can spray your yard for mosquitoes. We'll come once a month. That's another contract. And hey, by the way, we got termites. That's another contract. And then, hey, lawns, see how beautiful green your lawn is? Well, we got these army worms and they eat lawns like you wouldn't believe. And they kill lawns like in a matter of a couple of weeks. We got to spray for that too. And so it's like, before you know it, I got like 4 contracts with a pest control company, and so, or that bookkeeping, accounting, type company, so it's like needs versus wants, contracted versus project. Now, I'm not telling you can't make money doing some other kind of business. You may be in another kind of business. I'm just telling you how to stack the odds in your favor. And so that was the genesis to start with Empire Builder. It was, hey, if you're an entrepreneur out there and you're working for the man, you're working in the Fortune 500 world and you're like, hey, I'm ready to get the hell out of the rat race. I want to own my own business. Let me tell you, not many people in the world become ultra wealthy, defined as 30 million or more in net worth, by working for somebody else. W-2 employees may have a good living. They may become millionaires, but seldom do they become ultra wealthy, and really get to the top of the world of wealth creation. You're an anomaly if you do. The path to wealth is through owning your own business. The path through, to wealth is through, believing and investing in yourself, building a company, building an empire. So I talked about how to get out of the gates. But then once we get out of the gates, maybe you already own a company. Maybe you've got $1 million in revenue. Maybe you've got 10 million. You've beat the odds. You're one of the 7% that got to $1 million. You're one of the 0.4% of those that got to 10 million. Maybe you're already doing great. But the key to getting to 100 million is to get out of the gates really, really strong. I talk about building the perfect $100,000 business. You want to get to $1 million? I want you to be successful. I want you to be in the 7% that get there. And so immediately I teach you how to build a formula. Let's build a formula for success. I got that pest control company. I talk about unit level economics. What are the unit level economics for your business? and it doesn't matter what kind of industry, what kind of company you have. I define what the unit level economics are. So on that pest control company, it's a truck. I got a truck. I got a dude sitting in the truck. I got a sprayer on the back of that truck. That's my unit level economic in a pest control company. How much revenue can I generate with that one person in that truck, with that sprayer? How many visits can they do a day? How many places can they see in a week? What's the revenue per visit? How much money can I generate with that? That's my revenue. That's my revenue model per unit, which is the guy in the truck. Then what are my costs? What's the salary I have to pay? What's the operating costs that I have to pay to operate that truck? I'm not talking about the cost to acquire. That's a capital expense. I build that separately. But how much do I have to pay for gas, for oil changes, maintenance reserves, car insurance or truck insurance? It's like, what are my operating costs for that truck? And then I look at it and I apply this thing I call the 30-20-10 rule. I want at least 30% gross profit at the unit level economics. And I need my SG&A, my back office, my cost of customer acquisition needs to be less than 20%, and then I need to make at least a dime on the dollar at the bottom, and so I start looking at that unit level economics. Am I charging enough? Am I getting enough customers? Can I do enough? Can I generate enough revenue at the top to pay for my unit level economic, the truck, the guy, the sprayer, leaving me with at least 30% gross profit right there. I'd like more. That accounting bookkeeping company, because the product is up here, I don't even have to buy a truck. I don't need a guy in a truck. It's accounting. Hey, I may have 40 to 50% gross profit. And then cost of customer acquisition. What's that all about? It's like, if I can get a company at the unit level to pass the 30-20-10 rule, then I will show you a company that I can easily scale to the first million. I take $1 million in revenue, I divide it by the unit level economic revenue. How much revenue can that one crew, one guy in the truck generate? And then divide $1 million by that revenue tells you how many trucks I need to have on the road, how many employees I need to have, and then I look at what are my expenses, the capital expenditures. Well, how many trucks do I need to buy? What's the cost of the truck? If I put 30% down payment, I finance the rest. The cost of the payment goes into my operating expenses as a part of the unit level economics, and I can build just a simple mathematical formula that guides me to build a perfect business that passes the 30-20-10 rule, takes me to the first million. And on the way to the first million, I'm perfecting the model. I'm really dialing in, understanding what my cost structure is, my cost of customer acquisition, all that. Once I hit that first million, it's like I'm on top of the mountain. I'm where 93% of the world doesn't get. And then I look and I say, okay, what's next? It's 10 million. Take that same mathematical formula that I created to get to $1 million and now divide it by, 10 million. If I want 10 million in revenue, how many trucks do I need on the road to generate 10 million worth of revenue? What are the costs, the operating costs? How many employees do I need? And I can build these simple mathematical formulas that guarantee my success. And I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs have told me in the world, hey, Adam, I'll figure out how to get profitable when I get bigger. I need to get bigger to make money. And I'm like, hell no. If you can't make money small, you can't make money big. If you can't make money small, all you're going to do is scale your problems and create bigger problems. So we want to focus on making sure that we dial in a business. So if you've got a business today, if it's not earning at least 10 cents on a dollar at the bottom, then stop. Don't worry about growth. Go back. What are your unit level economics? Look at the fundamentals and try to work on your own business to improve how it operates and how it functions. I'll teach all of this stuff in May, at the Greatness Factory. And then from there, then it's like, okay, now that I've got it fixed, I've got it working. So let's say I'm not producing 30% growth profit. Well, how do I attack that? Well, I can attack, first of all, it's going to be either price. I got to charge more for my product or service, or I have to lower the direct operating cost to service the revenue. It's like, that's where I focus all my energy. How do you solve world hunger? You don't. You figure out where it's broke and you focus there. If I've got more than 30% gross profit, but I'm making less than 10 cents on a dollar, then I got to attack SG&A. My back office is too expensive. I got too many people sitting around not doing enough because it's costing me and I'm not efficient with my back office, or my cost of customer acquisition is simply too high. I'm spending too much to get my next customer. And so it's like understanding how your business works at the unit level helps us figure out how to fix it. Once we have it fixed, now we're ready for scale. Now we're ready for growth. So I've been rolling for a while, Coach. I better shut up and let you back in here. But that's
Well,
what Empire was all about. It was about dialing in the basics, because I can scale anything from there.
Well, I want to tackle a big question that a lot of people are going to ask, and JT can jump in on this too, because for a long time, take a business like mine, a coaching business, right? And when people come along and go, okay, Adam, I don't have a business that's set up like this, a need versus a want. I got a want versus a need business, right?
Yep.
Where do you come along and go, okay, we can reorient here, because a lot of people need to, in my opinion, open their mind. When I read Empire Builder and Exit Strategy Playbook and the private equity book, what it did for me is start opening my mind to bigger plays, number one. Number two, strategic partnership. And it starts getting you thinking about a different B goal, even if you don't have a business that fits in this right now. What would you say to those people that are sitting here like, man, I would like to come on May 10th and 11th, but I don't have a business that he just talked about just then.
Yeah. So part of, if you look back at my DNA, seldom did I inherit a company that met my own criteria. When I write my books and talk about these criterias, it's really designed to help you avoid trouble. And if you're just starting out or trying to figure out what kind of business to buy, how can you stack the odds in your favor so there's more chance of success? But frequently, I would go into a business that was a disaster. It was a turnaround. They don't hire a new CEO to come run something, if it's performing well. It's like, that company's a disaster. It's not working well. We need somebody to come in, fix it, and then scale it and take it to greatness. And so I get the nod, I get the call. As I get in there and I start peeling back the onion, I'm looking for those unit level economics. I'm starting to analyze the company. One of the things I talk about often is pivots, making strategic pivots. Yep. So I may have a business that is not, it's racing to the bottom. It's a tough industry. It's a tough world. I'll give you an example. My last company, when I started, it was a refrigeration, service company. And so we kept grocery stores cold. We kept 40,000 grocery stores cold, big ass company, and 90% of its revenue was coming from that. And it was a race to the bottom. You had to be the lowest bidder to win the contract. My largest customer was Walmart. And if your largest customer is Walmart, you're the lowest price. And lowest price is not a recipe for success. And so I started thinking about strategic pivots. What could I do? I have technicians. I have 1,900 technicians in trucks. I got 425 construction workers. I got 125 engineers. It's like, how do I get these people out of this red ocean, from the blood of competition? I'm not making money. It's a commoditized industry. How do I do something different with this? First thing I did is I created 2 strategic pivots. I went and I bought 3 companies and said, look, I want to do HVAC service, refrigeration service, but I want to do it not in the grocery store where it's commoditized. I want to do it somewhere where people appreciate what I do for a living, and so I started looking at blood banks, pharmaceutical research facilities. I started looking at data centers, cellular telecommunication centers, all these places that needed the exact product that I had and that I was supplying, but they had a different lens that they used to decide on who their contractor was. So I'll give you a classic example. If you go to your local just drugstore, like a CVS or a Walgreens, on average, they have $2.5 million worth of refrigerated pharmaceuticals inside each one. And according to the FDA, if the refrigeration is down for 4 hours, they got to throw out $2.5 million worth of inventory, and there is no insurance policy against that loss. They didn't give a damn how much I charged them to get there. They wanted me to get there, get it fixed, and have them back up within 4 hours. I think about the cell phone telecommunication companies. A cell tower goes down in Montana on top of a mountain, and they lose a 20-mile coverage ratio. It's like, Adam, I want you to get there before it breaks down. I want you to detect when the AC in the equipment rack is overheating, and I want you to get there and fix it as fast as you can, and I don't care what you charge me. And while you're up there, why don't you weed whack around the door so the next time my technician has to go, he can open the damn thing because no one's been up there for 6 months. And I had literally technicians walking in snowshoes, and they did not care what we charged them for service. COVID hits. I'm doing pharmaceutical research facilities. I'm doing all of these places where I rebuilt the Navy ships that carried the drugs. Those 3 white ships, we rebuilt them and had to put refrigeration in that could handle the low temperatures that were required to keep the COVID vaccines fresh and safe. And so, it's like we started finding new niches, and we did it all by doing strategic pivots. So I didn't start it from scratch. I bought companies that were already in those verticals to give me the customer base to launch from. I did another strategic pivot another way, and I started buying engineering service companies. There we were paid like a consultant, not a contractor on the race to the bottom. Margins, matter of fact, when I was at my full size at like 800 million in revenue, it's like I had about 125 million in engineering, and it was at a 50+% margin. It was producing almost half of the earnings of the entire company on this one little division. So coach, the play here is if you have a business that is, I'll call it either commoditized or it's a want-based business, not necessarily a need, or it's a need, but there aren't contracts. I'm looking for strategic pivots. I'm looking for opportunities to add new revenue streams that are kind of ancillary to what I'm doing. They're in the same family, but they're focused more on repeatable revenue streams that are more consistent. That's the key to pivoting. It's understanding what you've got, looking for the opportunities to make a pivot, and then redesigning, call it the company that you're running.
All right, let's talk. JT, you can jump in here. JT, this is the quietest I've ever seen you, JT. You may be zoomed out today.
Yeah, that is. It's like my 28th Zoom here today. I had meetings with 3 billionaires, one being Tommy Hilfiger. So I had to represent. He sends me free clothes. So I always have to wear his clothes when I talk to him. But I talked to billionaire John Katsimis and John Paul DeJoria. So Adam and I are business partners. I live in Nashville too. And, the biggest problem is that most people don't know how to scale. There's a difference from scaling from 0 to 100,000, 100,000 to a million to 10 to 100 million. I own 79 different companies in 55 different countries and literally flying to Australia tomorrow. Adam and I are doing a deal over there. And when we talked before, and you guys should go watch our videos on YouTube, Adam and I, at this point of our lives, like we're both, high 9-figure people, he didn't really necessarily want to do any more trainings. It's like, JT, bring me deals. He turned down a billionaire in order to work with me. And when you have 58 company acquisition, 2.46 billion in exit, another $3 billion coming in 2025, and a $90 million payday, you don't need to be on a Zoom for 45 people. But he told me he gets much more joy and fulfillment working with me and working with people like here. And, you made a great impression. You have an amazing community. And Adam did something that he said he wouldn't even do to my community anymore. He's like, all right, I'll fly down to Nashville. Normally we all have to go to Dallas because if it's not 15 minutes from Adam's house, like at this point, you don't need to. Like, that's one thing that's hard to get billionaires or A-list celebrities I do business to do anything because they don't have to. And Adam's like, I'm going to come 2 full days. And there's 2 purposes. People are either going to scale and become successful, and that's fantastic, or they're going to scale and we're going to partner with them. Maybe, we're going to do a roll-up strategies or scale their company and then add 4 or 5 companies underneath them. And if you get to a $4 million in EBITDA profit, you can sell for 32 million. If you get to $10 million, you could sell for 105 to 125. And I started a trade school together. One of the biggest threats out there is HVACs, plumbing, electrical. Love those types of businesses. Love service business, landscaping, pest control. AV company I just purchased in Nashville as well. So the idea is like, how can we do deals together? The money is made in the deals. And so if Adam can teach you everything he knows first, because I think what Adam, he's not used to Coach Burt and I repeating ourselves. Like we're used to repeating ourselves. And Adam's like, I don't want to repeat myself. Get the standard knowledge. And then let me take this bit of information and boom, scale it to the next level. And so, and then for me, I initially said yes to coach that I would do it since it's Nashville. It's just I didn't realize I was flying from Australia. So I literally fly in that morning and go straight to see you guys. So after flying 24 hours, going straight to the Greatness Factory. But that's really kind of the point is as well. What Adam has done. I mean, one of our clients are Larry here, who, by the way, we now partner with. Larry sold his company for $90 million. And whether you're a startup or just brand new or super there, but Larry and I partnered together with Adam in order to do deals. So Larry, if you can unmute him, like you've actually taken that same 2 days and now we're partners and you help us with companies as well. So Coach Brown, if you can unmute him, or Larry needs to unmute. There you go, Larry.
Yep. Thank you. Yes, it's amazing, JT, because you're right. I mean, I've been in business for years. We grew our business. It was 182 million last year. My wife and I did an exit, and yet I sat in that room for 2 days with Adam and was just blown away. Many of the things, of course, I knew, many of the things I had done, but the way he explains them, the depth that he goes to, and I'll say in a lot of ways, it's very simple. He explains them very simply. Doesn't mean that it's easy to do, but you really have a clear understanding and something that you can grab, a tool that you can grab and go take action on. So it's really, really worthwhile.
Yeah, and also too, Adam talks about scaling the perfect 100,000. So let's say you say to me, JT, I make $800,000. Adam says, great. Don't show up for a few months, see what happens to your business. Right? Adam, you want to chime in on that? What the perfect $100,000 business is? Because a lot of people make that. People are like, I already make $1 million. Why would I scale to 100? All right, stop going to work, see what happens. Right? So you only make $1 million because you're really good at what you do. You're like scoring all the points, but the minute you come off the bench, you know what I mean? You're like, you're getting crushed. So talk about the perfect 100,000.
So I kind of covered this, I think, before you jumped on, JT. But one thing I do want to say, I call it the accidental arrogance of success. Sometimes we build a business, we get to some place where we think we've arrived. I am the king. I'm the king of the hill. And then you close yourself off to further learning, and you limit your success because you've got a mental attitude or a roadblock that you've put in place. And so I see this happen often. To get out of the gates and build the perfect business, to get to the million, one of the attributes that I see in a lot of successful entrepreneurs that get to $1 million in revenue, I call them their anal retentive control freaks. It's like, how do you get to $1 million? You make sure that everything, I call it the Happy Meal effect. If we go to any McDonald's anywhere around the country, if I order a Happy Meal, I'm going to get the same red cardboard box. I'm going to get the same cardboard hamburger inside. I'm going to get the same apple slices that were packaged 100 years ago. It's like, it's predictable, and that's what we have to be, in order to get through that perfect 100,000, to get to that first $1 million, we have to be predictable. And so we become anal retentive control freaks. We have to make every decision because this is kind of our key to the initial success that we find. But then that anal retentive control freak nature then stops being helpful. And I bought 58 companies. Most of them were around the $20 to $30 million in revenue mark when I bought them. And the entrepreneur had kind of hit the glass ceiling. It's like, I can't grow any bigger. I've arrived. God bless me. I'm the king of the hill, and I no longer have any bandwidth. I don't know how to let go. I don't know what to do, other than it's like, I'm the size I am and I can't get any bigger. I don't know how to get bigger. And most people,
they don't do any, Adam, they don't do anything about it. They'll be like, like I always tell people, you have the opportunity. Like I see Coach Burt taking notes, and Coach Burt's watched all our YouTube videos, listened to my podcasts, especially with me and Adam. And even though he's very successful, he's got a plane, houses all over, he's a student of the game. And when he approached us, really there was a purpose. He's like, I want to do what you guys do, because there's no exit strategy as a coach. There's great income, right? But most coaches don't make any money. But how many years did Coach Berg go on the road and travel the country? And you know what I mean? Like, I had a meeting with the royal family in Dubai a week and a half ago, and they want to do business with me. And something in America that, they can't get is, how do I get high net worth people to do business in Dubai? Which right now there's no incentive for Americans because we have to pay taxes. No matter what, other countries, they pay no taxes. So the royal family is like, calling upon me. A day and a half ago, I was with Andrea Bocelli and his wife. And now, because I do stuff with them, I'm doing business with them. And they invited me to their house on July 21st. And all the biggest A-listers in the world are going to be there. CEOs of Prada, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, all of them, they're going to be there. All this is because you build a relationship. But you know what? I flew to Pittsburgh, and there was no direct flight to Pittsburgh from Nashville. I can assure you that. And so, and then I got delayed weather, all this stuff last week. But it's all about adding value. And I think that's one thing that Coach is really good at. And it's something I'm good at. And to have all three of us there, I mean, there's one intention: teach you everything we know so that you can scale, become successful, or teach you everything we know so we can do business together. I also talk about marketing and branding. There's a lot of coaches out there, but why does Coach Burt do very well? Why does he do well? Because he's branded. A lot of people think branding is a polo and a logo. It doesn't matter what business you are, we can scale it. I mean, but at the end of the day, whatever got you to where you are here today. So, to have it's a huge kind of honor to have Adam come to Nashville. My clients, and I have a lot of clients literally all over the world, who flew from Australia, who flew from Europe, who flew from China, who flew from Japan, just to spend 2 days with Adam, literally all over the world. And it had to be 30 minutes from his house. So the fact that he's coming to Nashville really shows how Coach Burt has really built a relationship. And also, Adam wants to see the greatness factory. What's this business model like? So he's curious to see what Coach has.
And JT, I'll tell you what, I'm coming one time. I'm coming to teach you the tools that you need to do business with us. I'll teach you how to build, the perfect little business so it's big enough to step in the ring with the three of us. And then we'll help you get from that level to greatness.
Yeah, and that's the greatness of scaling. I mean, one person, one deal, one opportunity can change your life and your business. You have three. So there will be people there. Some of you are like, we're going to partner with you eventually, but first got to give you the little sprinkles of knowledge and push and connections. Others are ready to go. Let's partner. I mean, today we had a call right before you guys to my clients. And this is the type of clients that I attract. The guy does $750 million in revenue, owns the largest steel mill in Australia. He saw me speak and he's like, he's probably had a higher net worth than everybody else in the room combined, $1 billion net worth, $665 US. He sat on a Zoom exactly like you guys. And so now, and Adam's got all the connections, all the private equities, everything. So it doesn't matter what business you're at. So, maybe we can take some questions, Coach, just before a couple of businesses, what they have, and out of curiosity, what Adam and I would have some feedback, and maybe even Larry. So,
I'd love to take some questions. Before I do, I want to say there's an art to strategic deal making that JT really has mastered. And that's one thing that a lot of people need to learn about: how to create value, how to get proximity to powerful and wealthy people, how to put deals and connections together, and how to get a seat at a bigger table, which you guys hear me talk about a lot.
I mean, did I invite you to come to Italy with me as a guest?
Yeah, you did.
Adam, did I invite you?
Yep.
So it's the same thing. I invited my clients. 40 of my clients are coming. Whatever's mine is yours. I like to invite people close to me so that you enjoy the same benefits. And people say, what is it going to do for me to go to, let's say, Italy with Coach, with Andrea Bocelli? Well, you know who I met last Thursday in Pittsburgh? There was this nice little lady, and she's like from New Orleans. She was talking to Bocelli, and then she left. Bocelli left because Andrea was getting ready, and he's blind, so he can't see, and she had to do something. And she's talking, was like, where are you from? New Orleans. I'm like, oh, you ever going to leave? She goes, no, I've been there my whole life. And then she goes, oh, how did you meet the Bocellis? Well, I had a suite and invited my suite, and they watched the game. And then, long story short, then Bocelli's daughter comes in. She's 8. She sings. My God, so amazing. The whole family sings. So I told them the business was created Bocelli DNA because all 3 kids sing. And then she goes, oh, it's so nice seeing the players. Thank you so much. I miss it. And I meet the players. I say, how did they get to see the players? She goes, I own the team. It's Miss Benson. She owns the New Orleans Saints and the Pelicans. And I found out that she has no children. So if I get myself adopted, I can own both an NFL team and I'll take one of the two, but I'll take both. So it was, and then, horse racing and everything. So then next thing I'm in overtime. And then she invited me at the end of the month for the playoffs or a Saints game, or bring my clients on the field. And she goes, do you ever want to do something on the field? We own it. You know what I mean? And, so, this is the value. If I had not gone, I wouldn't have sat down with the Bocellis. And so it's all about value. And then, of course, I have a big event once a year with the biggest celebrities in the world: Pacino, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Wahlberg, Julia Roberts, and everything, and billionaires. And so all the people that were singing with Bocelli. I'm like, and one of them lives in Nashville. I'm like building a relationship with them. So they come to my event. So I locked up like 3 of them. So, so it was just like a networking machine back there and always adding value. But that's what we're going to do there. It's going to be very small. They'll be the smallest group that Adam and I both have spoken. To give you a perspective, I'm speaking to 5,000 people this week in Australia. So very, very small, 100 people, small, intimate people here on this call. And as Adam will tell you, there is no next time. There is no one day, worst case scenario, fly in late Thursday night or first thing Friday morning and leave at the end of the day. Saturday.
You and I have talked about this, JT. It's like, what are you going to do to make the relationship? What are you going to do to make the meeting happen? It's like, you know my story, a billionaire wanted me to come see him. The only day that we could sync our calendars was Memorial Day. It was a holiday. I'm supposed to be flying with my family up to Northern Michigan. So, I tell my wife, it's like, hey, we're going to hop over to Greenwich, Connecticut. We're going to go from Dallas, to Greenwich, Connecticut in the jet. And then we'll go up and continue our vacation. You get to go shopping in Greenwich, Connecticut for the day. How's that? And I leave her shopping while I take off to go meet this guy at his house.
And they send you the jet too. They send you the jet. Nobody sends me a jet.
Yeah. And so it's like, it's like, you know what? I don't care what your schedule says. I don't care if you're busy. I'm coming to Nashville. I'm coming once. And I'm going to teach you how to do this. And then we're going to do business together. And those of you who take advantage of this, we're going to do business together. Those of you who don't, I don't know what else I can do for you.
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people, like, I can't make it that weekend. John Katsumi is the billionaire. We had a meeting Thursday. And then he basically changed. I've got something with Governor Abbott. And he's like, can we do it Wednesday? I'm like, I got, and then he said to me, no problem. Maybe some other time. I'm like, that really means it ain't probably going to happen again. So sure enough, I changed my schedule. I sit down and I end up cutting a deal with them. And in the middle of I didn't tell you this, Adam, in the middle of lunch, he says to me, listen, are we just going to jerk each other around or are we going to do a deal? I'm like, well, what deal would you like to make? He goes, I don't make offers. People make me offers. And so on the spot, I made an offer. You find out what's most important to the people. And I made him an offer and he said yes. So, so I'm kind of excited with that as well. So there's a funny story of me and Adam and that billionaire. He ghosted me until I posted on LinkedIn a picture of me and the billionaire at lunch. So every time I go there, there's a psychological. He ghosted me. And then I guess he saw me on LinkedIn with the billionaire. So all of a sudden he's like, well, good company you have. So, funny story.
Well, let's do this so we don't keep you guys here all night. Let's take a few questions. There are some people here who already are in that criteria of EBITDA, who are.
It could be any level. It doesn't have to be like this, by the way. Any level of success. So just it doesn't
totally get it. But we do have some people who are already playing at that level, and but I do want everybody to know the people who are in What's Next, Coach's Locker Room, and the Exchange with me get a ticket. If you want to have lunch with JT and Adam, that is a charge. We have opened up for a private dinner for 5 people. That private dinner will be $5,000 to have, but we're only taking 5 people, and I take 2 or 3 of those have already been taken. So if you're interested in that, you need to make sure you we'll do that on Friday night.
The last dinner that Adam and I did together, we ended up doing business with everybody at the table. So it was kind of funny because it's a little bit different. Sometimes you're at dinner and we just say, like, how quickly can we close a deal with these people and partner with them over dinner? Remember that, Adam?
Yes.
So yeah. I thought that was a good time. So we haven't done that. Coach is doing all these things that we haven't done in a long time. He's like memory lane. we're going back to the old school with things. Instead of charging $5,000 for the 2-day, he's doing this free for certain members, only 5 for lunch. I mean, it's pretty impressive. So I don't know what he did to us. It's my just charming personality.
All right, let's take a few questions and then we'll get this thing wrapped up tonight. Anybody got a question for Adam or JT that they'd like to ask based on what we've been covering tonight? I'm sure there's some questions that you would like to know.
Usually there's a little reaction button there. You raise your hand, we'll call.
Yep, raise your digital hand. We'll call on you.
Is there a chance about your business or what we would do or what potential your business has?
And some of you may have already been thinking about this. All right. So let's go. Steve Miller, you're up.
Good.
We're good.
Okay. Right now, I run a I run a construction company. We're doing about $2 million gross revenue.
What's your profit?
We do what?
What's your profit?
Profit right now, looking at everything, we're somewhere between 250 and 350.
So the first thing I'm going to tell you is you can't say somewhere in between. You need to know your exact numbers, like to the penny. Is that correct? Especially in constructions where margins sometimes are compressed. Right, Adam?
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
I'm not as into the number side of that as I should be. Mine is the day-to-day operational side for the men. So, I'm looking at all the other piece to get all the numbers, the actual numbers together so I can present that a little bit better.
So what's your question for us?
Sir?
What's your question for us?
The question is, I have a master plumber on staff. We do our own plumbing. Is it good for us to take that and scale that within our business and to grow that?
Well, the first thing I'm saying, I have
to
Adam
come out
answer
of
that
that?
question. Adam answer that question. But if you go to my YouTube, I interviewed a plumber who sold his business for 145 million pounds. Let me repeat that for you.
Yeah, I watched that interview.
145 million pounds. So Adam, and by the way, it's Adam who turned me to trade because I've done 1,000 deals. I've never picked up a hammer or nail or anything. It was Adam who called me a year ago. He's like, trades, the new gold rush. So I'll let him answer the question because I'm sort of taking the thunder because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know what a trade is. I thought it'd be like trading cards or something.
Well, Steve. So first of all, congratulations on being one of the 7% that beats a million, right? So, from my perspective, buyers are either buyers of construction companies or they're buyers of, call it the plumbing company. But when I confuse the two, I actually can do damage because, it's kind of like I got people who buy vanilla ice cream. I got people who buy chocolate, and I'm trying to sell them Neapolitan. I'm like, I don't want Neapolitan. I want chocolate or I want vanilla. So sometimes, in a trades-based business, if you'd have told me it's HVAC and plumbing, which go hand in hand, that would have been different. But when you tell me construction and plumbing, I think that's two separate companies, two separate buyers. I'd rather build it. If you want to own it, the plumbing company, so that it's taking care of your construction business, I'd say go ahead and build it. Just build it separately so that you can sell it to someone who wants to buy a plumbing company and sell the construction company to someone that's rolling up a construction industry. But don't force the buyer universe to have to want to do both because you're limiting the potential outcome.
Yes, sir.
I agree, man. The opportunities of plumbing, I tell people there'll be more millionaires created with plumbers and electricians than anything else. So, which is one of the industries that we're looking for. So you're in the right place, Steve. You're in the right place. I love plumbers.
All right.
Sean?
Go ahead, Sean.
Excellent. Thank you guys for your time. Two questions. One is philosophy, why EBITDA versus free cash flow? And second, I know there's a specific acquisition market for accounting firms. I'm an accountant. Is there any appetite in PE for professional services or accounting firms? And thank you guys for your time.
Okay,
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay, first of all, accounting and bookkeeping services, one of my top 4 to want to do a roll-up in, very high margins. My product is up here, so it's one of my top 4 industries right now, working with multiple family offices with more than $100 million allocated from each to do this project. So I'd say great spot for a roll-up. Why EBITDA versus free cash? Well, when we value a company, we actually look at it 3 different ways. And one of them is discounted, call it discounted future cash, So free cash is king. However, any company that I bought, so we're going to look at it from an asset perspective, future cash generation, and then comps. But in all cases, the vernacular of the private equity world is everything is bought for a multiple of EBITDA. But if it's a high CapEx business, then it's going to be EBITDA minus CapEx equals a multiple of free cash. So it does matter ultimately, but multiple of EBITDA is how the headline price is usually calculated. But free cash is looked at. The reason is because if I want to buy your company, I want to use your cash in your business to pay for the debt. So I need to know how much of that that cash you've got. Construction company like Steve, one of the problems we may have with a construction company is may have heavy capital expenditures, may have to buy a lot of equipment, in which case profit minus CapEx equals very little free cash, very little cash available to service debt. So it does matter. But bookkeeping, accounting, my number one spot. You got a sizable business, we need to talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, and by the way, we just had another previous call with one of the largest group of accountants put mergers together. It's such, so fragmented, and P's love that. So something Adam and I are working with in Australia with a group of accountants, which we were on the previous call. Cole?
Okay, thank you, guys. Question is, on a landscape company, contracted revenue versus project revenue. When you're looking at buying a company, what is a good mix of that? Would you rather it be more heavy or 100% contractor revenue?
So, and it needs to be weight, I'd say 75-25. I'd rather see 75% contracted recurrent revenue, 25% project based. But if you were 50-50, what you need to be able to show a buyer is that you're growing the contracted side of the business so that you're not lumped into the category of you're a project-based company, and project-based companies are lumpy, and so multiples are definitely tempered when it's a heavy project-based business. So I'd say focus on, let me give you an example though. So my last company was 50% construction, 50% service when I bought it. And I didn't change anything about the base business, but I bought 23 companies, and the 23 companies I bought were weighted heavily towards service. And by the time I was done buying the 23, I was like 80+% service, 20% construction. And it's not that I walked away from the construction business. I just built the other side of the business with more focus and intensity. So definitely the contracted sides make it a much more valuable. There's another industry where high on my list, and multiple billion-dollar businesses have been created through private equity roll-ups, and it's still as fragmented today as it was, 10, 20 years ago. Still lots of opportunity in landscape.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Chase.
Hey guys, thank you for your time. My main question is just when do I know when I want to sell, or if I want to sell, or I mean, we're growing around 120% a year right now. I have no idea, and I'm young. I have no idea.
How big top line? What's the revenue?
Yeah.
We're projected to do about 4 million this year, and bottom line would be about 1.5.
Okay.
What's the business?
Insurance.
Okay.
Adam knows
Insurance,
about
another
that.
one of my top 4. You're talking to a guy who owned an insurance agency for 15 years, and then we sold it to Acrisure, who buys, 100 agencies a year.
Your Honor, can you speculate that Adam Coffey has owned everything? Thank you. Proceed to our next line of questioning.
So let me tell you something. When's the right time to sell? So I wrote an article for Forbes last year. When's the right time to sell is what the title is. So if you Google that, you'll pull it up. And I said, take your age as a 2-digit number, take your net worth, the percent of your net worth that's tied up in your illiquid thing known as your company, and add that 2-digit to your age 2-digit. If it equals more than 130, you've got too much risk. You should think about diversifying your asset. So that's one answer. Second answer, I don't like selling anything below about $4 million in earnings. And there's a reason for that. Below 4 million, my universe of buyers is not as high quality, as high caliber as it is when I hit the 4 million mark, which is where real private equity really starts. And that's where a lot of the more traditional firms are playing. And so they can bring to the table much more assets. I'm also going to get rewarded with a higher multiple. If I'm selling at 1.5, I might be looking, in insurance speak, you're looking at like what, 1.5 times revenue. That's one of the few industries on the planet that actually looks at a multiple of revenue versus a multiple of earnings, but it works out to about 6 times. But if I can get to 4 million of EBITDA, then the multiple goes up. It's the first place where there's a lot of multiple arbitrage increase. And so I'm going to get rewarded with a higher multiple. So provided you don't break the 130 rule, provided you're okay and comfortable, then I would tell you, I'd want to build that business a little bit bigger. And if you're at 1.5 million today, you are just ripe, brother, to do a roll up. I'm doing an insurance agency roll up right now in Dallas. There's over 960, independent insurance agents, on my list within about 100 miles of Dallas. It's like, it shouldn't be hard for you to go from 1.5 million to 4 million. That's something that with a little bit of effort, we could probably do in a year, and then you'd be in the market, and you're probably looking then at a 30 to $35 million exit.
But one of the things to take it to the next level, you're gonna have to increase your brand. And that's obviously the insurance business. This is a very branded thing because people come to you first. It's not, everyone says they kind of offer the same thing. You can outwork everyone. I always say everyone pays for success. You can pay with time, right? Which takes you a long time, or you can pay to get with the right people in the right room. And I think that's a mistake that people often make, thinking that they're just going to do it themselves, and they have a very slow growth path. Because once you can do this over, you can do it in another industry, you can do it in the same industry, but nothing feels as good as getting your first $30-odd million exits. Changes a lot of things too.
Yeah.
So.
And professional services, really, if you get to scale, you get to 10 million, of EBITDA, the multiples get pretty high pretty quick. I'm on the board and an investor in a large professional services company. We traded for a 20+ multiple about a year and a half ago. We're looking for about 23 times the next time we're going to market. So the multiples get up with scale and size, but for that first exit, I'd shoot for, call it 4 million.
That's something we probably could do with him. So we'll see what happens when he comes to Nashville. Last question, Scotty, because then Adam and I got to rock.
Good evening. So my questions kind of revolve around, I know everybody's talking insurance, accounting. My business is different. It's strictly government contracting. So after the military in 2016, I worked for the government for several years. And in 2016, I started my own company, which is actually the logos behind me here in my office. So from 2016 to the end of 2023, I've built it from nothing to, we did little over 155 million in revenue for 2023. So, I've got partners, and my partners probably, they don't have, even though I'm the managing partner, I own the majority of the company. I'm actually taking the company and I'm splitting it in half, and I've started a new company. And the reason for that is I want to acquire additional contractors, federal government contractors, build up that company, and then exit it. Where do you find those companies that are for sale?
So good question. There's a lot of places. Normally with the size that you've got, what's your earnings, by the way?
So we're in the middle of a GAAP financial audit right now, and our earnings, I mean, the numbers sound great at 150, 155 million, but we have a mix of contract work, project work, and we're on the NASA suit contract. So we also sell products, and we're in a mentor protege. So a lot of our margins aren't good, but we netted 7.8 million.
Okay.
For 23.
So it is relatively low then. So I would still say that you're large enough, that there's multiple ways that you can go hunting. The most common way when I've got money is I'm going to hire a buy-side advisor. So write down the name Harvey and Company, write down the name Critical Point Partners. A typical buy-side advisor, I'm going to pay them $5,500 a month, $5,000 to $6,000, call it. And then I'm going to pay them roughly a 2% success fee. I buy something that's a $10 million company, $10 million enterprise value. I'm probably going to pay about a $200,000 success fee. I can finance that along with the acquisition. But the buy-side advisor's job is to go out there and shake the trees, build a funnel. So in my HVAC world, I hire a buy-side advisor. They literally find all 45,000, mechanical contractors that meet my criteria in the United States. We start sorting through it. We get down to about 1,400 that are what I call more of my target market. And then we start getting, like a list of about 100 that we're actively working, at one time. So a buy-side advisor will help you. They serve up warm leads. They don't do diligence. They don't do anything other than say, hey, Scotty, here's a company that meets your criteria, and the owner would like to have a conversation with you. You take it from there. That's one way. If I want to do it in-house, I'm going to start by hiring a VP of business development. That VP of business development is going to use tools like Grata or Zoom Info. Dun & Bradstreet, Hoover's, a bunch of different tools that are out there. Same work though. Got to build a funnel. Got to first define what's the perfect acquisition look like. What's the size? What's the verticals that it's serving? What's its specialty area? And then with that in mind, I'm going to use specific tools to, again, build a list of at least 100+ companies that I can begin to work. But I'll tell you that using brokers, I'm not focused on what the world brings to me. I want to go create the market. I want to go find companies, and my best deals come from people who don't know they're a seller before they talk to me, and I make them a seller over time. And that's where I find the best companies. Not just about price. It's about I find the better quality companies that don't know they're sellers yet, and those are the ones I'm focused on. So 23 companies I bought. My guess is, probably 3/4 of them came from either my people hunting or the buy-side advisor hunting, and the last third came from brokers, who brought me a business. They get lazy once they know I'm buying. They don't want to work too hard. They just, hey Adam, I got a company for you. And as long as they're willing to take fair market value, I'll take a look at it. But my best deals are proprietary, and they come when I create them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Coach, have you take it away?
All right, guys, this has been great, but it's hard to take all of this information and disseminate it in an hour. Okay, so I would call this exposure. I would call the 2 days in Nashville a much deeper dive. And so if you're interested in coming to Nashville, which we think you very much need to be interested, number one, just to grow your business acumen, grow your business IQ on how to build a business, really learn how this works from both the private equity side and looking to exit a company, because Adam's been on both sides of that equation. Okay, there's nobody better to show you how to do it.
People say, I'm not ready to sell. Well, when you're ready to sell, you're 2 years out. You need to start thinking before, right, Adam? Before you need to start planting seed. That's the biggest mistake. Most businesses don't sell because it's when you're ready. It's not.
I never started an adventure without knowing when I'm gonna sell it, at what size I'm gonna sell it, and who my buyer is.
And if you don't have that now, no matter what business they are, you could be brand new and still have the exit. And that's where we're going to go. We're going to go from 0 to 1 billion, like every step of the way: marketing, branding, scaling, relationships, where to sell, how to find the people, how to increase revenue, how to increase profitability. There's like 4,000 things. You got me and Adam for 2 full days. So we're going to go very, very deep. And I don't know. I think we haven't done this in a while. So especially not at that price, but like I said, we basically said, have everybody cover the cost of the room and staff and Adam's flights and all that stuff. And you know what, let's do some deals. So we're incentivized by either helping you scale quickly or helping you scale and doing deals. And just based on some of the people that talked to you, Adam and I were texting like, yeah, we could do business with that person. So let's make some deals. So we're gonna let you go, Kurt. Burt, you can wrap it up. Adam and I got another call. We got to get on to, we're closing a deal together. So
thank you guys. And we'll be seeing you soon. And I'll wrap this thing up with everybody. Okay. Thank you for your time tonight.
Look forward to seeing you guys.
Now, guys, I would tell you, Adam typically closes if you watch him, I've watched probably 30 or 40 interviews with him. And at the end of almost every interview, he says the same thing. You can be a dreamer or you can be a doer. Okay. You can be a dreamer, or you can be a doer. Okay. So when I was 31 years old, I was a former high school basketball coach. I didn't know, I didn't have a financial IQ. So Bobby Jones, I didn't know the difference between an asset and a liability. I didn't know profit and loss. I've been a basketball coach, guys, making a fixed income. So you know what I did at 31? I went to the bookstore and I started buying books on how to grow my financial IQ. I started understanding how businesses work. And then I was smart enough to go, I want to be in rooms with the smartest people in the world. Okay. And you're going to find very few people as smart as Adam Coffey. Now, what I've seen JT Foxx do, he's one of the biggest deal makers I have ever seen. I've never seen a guy be able to get in a room with Andrew Bocelli and do a deal. I mean, sending me pictures from Bocelli's house, for God's sakes, saying, hey, you want to come over to Italy? Right? It's like he just knows how to take an opportunity, create from an opportunity to monetization at a very fast pace. So it's like, okay, we're going to put these 2 guys in a room for 2 days. We're going to let them coach you. I'm going to sit right there beside you and take notes. And I'm going to learn. Now, here's the good news. This is not a $20,000 ticket or $30,000 ticket. It's $9.97 to be in the room with these two guys for 2 days. $9.97. That's the general admission ticket. That gets you in the door for 2 days. If you want to have lunch with these two guys, I think it's, what is it, Kelly? $19.97 for lunch. If you want to have lunch with these guys, and if you want to have dinner with these two guys, we're only taking 5 people, probably at Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse. It's going to be a $5,000 investment to have dinner. If you've ever thought about selling a business, if you have a business that you think you could sell, if it were me, I'd just take the dinner so I could sit there at the table and have dinner with these guys. Okay, because what's it worth to you if they go, yes, we want to buy this company for 3 or 4 or 5 times what the EBITDA is? So you got to make a decision if you're going to be a dreamer or if you're going to be a doer. And when we bring these things to Nashville, like I said, I had to convince these guys to do this, to come to the Greatness Factory, right? Typically it's go to Dallas, spend $5,000. It's always 5,000. It's always 5,000 to do it in Dallas. So I got them to do it at $9.97, $19.97. 5,000 for private dinner. So when you think about it, this is a great opportunity. I'm excited about learning. This is a product we don't offer. This is something I've been interested in for a long time, the private equity game. I was coaching a guy today doing 25 million. I did a 1-to-1 session with him. He paid 25,000 bucks to spend a day with me. And he's got a $25 million company that fixes cars, right? It's a great business. Cars break down. They need fixed. He's growing these things at a rapid rate. And we spent the whole day today figuring out how to get from 9 locations to 40 locations. And if he gets to 40 locations, he jumps from 25 million to 100 million. That's what we spent 5 hours figuring out today in the money lab. Okay. So we had a lot of discussions about private equity, a lot of discussions about what's out there, what's offered. So this is what I would call a seat at the big table. And if you want a seat at the big table, you got to get in a room with the big boys and the big girls. Okay. So what's your assets? What do you bring? What do they bring? And then who knows what could happen if you just get in a room and learn from these guys. If nothing else, your mind's going to be expanded and you're never going to go back to its original dimension. So Kelly's posting the link. If you got questions, the date's May 10 and 11. It's going to be 10 to 4 each day. That's a Friday, Saturday. Okay. It's going to be 10 to 4 each day. We will have you out of there on Saturday because we know it's Mother's Day. And if you got to fly back, but come to Nashville, spend some time at the Greatness Factory. Get your mind open, and let's have a great 2 days because I'm excited about bringing these two guys to the Greatness Factory and excited about bringing them to you. So you guys have a great night. Kelly at CoachBurt.com. If you want to get a ticket, Kelly at CoachBurt.com, or just click the link and let's get you rolling, okay? We do feel like there's going to be a good group of people, and there's no telling who you're going to meet there. There's no telling what kind of opportunity. The key to the many is to the one, okay? So the dreamer or the doer, this is the 2 options you got in life, folks. So here's your chance to get in a room. All right.
And Coach, we already sold 2 that are having dinner with you guys. Stacy Murphy, and I'm calling someone else. So thank you guys. And like I said, he won't be coming back to Nashville. So this is your chance. Get in the room with him.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Kelly at CoachBurt.com. If you need anything, good session night, guys. Great session tonight. You guys have a great night. Love you. I appreciate you. Everybody needs a good coach.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.